The woman at the gate. Wind tore across the barren plain, carrying sand sharp enough to cut skin. The storm hadn't come to pass. It had come to stay. A figure pushed through it, shawl whipping against her face, arms clutched tight around the small bundle pressed to her chest. The baby's cry was swallowed by the wind, thin as a thread in the roar of dust and sky. The woman reached the wooden gate just as the last bit of daylight vanished behind the hills. She lifted her hand and knocked. 3 hard raps that barely rose above the storm's howl. The door creaked open. A man filled the frame, broad shoulders blocking the firelight behind him. His hat cast a shadow that hid his eyes, but his voice was low, steady, like something that hadn't been used in a long while. "What do you want?" Her lips trembled as she tried to speak. "Work," she said. "I'll scrub, mend, cook, anything. Just a roof, sir." For him. She turned the bundle so the firelight reached it. A baby, pale and crying, face smudged with dust. The man didn't move. The only sound was the storm pressing against the walls, rattling the shutters. Then he stepped aside, slow as if testing the choice with every breath. "Get in." She hesitated. No one in town had opened a door to her. No one had looked twice except to turn her away. She looked up at him again, seeing something behind the stillness, something broken but not gone. He took the baby from her arms without a word, rough hands surprisingly gentle. "You're half dead," he said. "Sit by the fire." Inside, the air smelled of old wood and horses. The room was simple. Rifle by the wall, iron pot over the fire, a cross of bullet holes patched in the door. She sat down, shaking uncontrollably, hands blistered from the wind. The man poured water into a tin cup and handed it to her. "Name?" "Eliza," she whispered. He nodded once. "Harper." They didn't speak again. The fire cracked and the storm thrashed outside, but in that quiet cabin, time slowed to the rhythm of the baby's breathing. When dawn broke, the storm had passed, leaving only silence and the red earth washed clean. Harper stood on the porch, watching the desert glow in the morning light. Eliza stepped out behind him, baby wrapped against her shoulder. "Can you cook?" he asked. She nodded. "Then you'll do that. The bar needs clearing too. I'll pay fair when I can." "I ain't here for charity," she said. He turned, eyes steady beneath the brim of his hat. "Didn't say you were." For days, no more words passed between them than were needed. She scrubbed the floors until they shone, cooked whatever she could find, and fixed the broken hinge on the barn door. Harper mended fences, rode out to check cattle, and returned each night with the same heavy silence. But there were moments, brief, unspoken moments, when the air shifted between them. One evening, as she hung washing by the corral, the baby giggled at a horse nosing close to him. Harper looked up from where he worked, hammer paused, mid-swing. That sound, the child's laugh, seemed to split something open in him. He dropped his tools and walked away without a word. Later that night, she found him sitting on the porch, staring at the horizon. She placed the sleeping baby in a basket and sat beside him. The silence was thick, but not cold. "You got no one?" she asked softly. His jaw tightened. "Had." She didn't press. The firelight flickered across the scars on his hand. Burn marks, deep and uneven. From the hills, a coyote called. Somewhere beyond that, the faint glimmer of another homestead winked out. Eliza drew her shawl tighter. "You don't have to keep us," she said. "We'll move on when the boy's stronger." Harper turned his head, slow and deliberate. "You're home," he said. The words hung there, rough, final, like a verdict passed down from something older than either of them. From that night on, the rhythm of the ranch changed. The clatter of pots in the morning, the smell of bread, the baby's cries mingling with the groan of cattle fences, it all became part of the same music. But Silver Mesa was a place that never forgot. When Harper rode into town for salt and flour, men looked at him and whispered. They said the lawman had gone soft, letting some drifter woman take up at his place. Others muttered that she was trouble, that she came from the wrong trail, with ghosts riding behind her. He ignored them. That evening, back at the ranch, he found her by the well, hair loose, face flushed from work. She turned, startled, and in that instant, something passed between them, a flicker of trust, or maybe the memory of it. "You don't owe me anything, Mr. Harper," she said quietly. He wiped sweat from his brow. "You're working for it." She smiled faintly, and for the first time, he almost smiled back. The baby began to cry again. She picked him up, cradled him close. The child's small fingers reached toward Harper, and he stepped back like he'd been struck. Night fell hard and sudden. The wind rose again, howling through the cracks of the old house. Harper lit the lanterns, checked the rifle at the door. Eliza laid the baby down, humming low. "Storm's coming," he said. "Another one?" He nodded. "They always come back." The wind hit the house like a living thing, clawing at the boards, moaning through the chimney. Harper sat by the fire, watching the flames bend. Eliza sat across from him, shawl pulled tight, eyes fixed on the flicker. Neither spoke. Then, through the storm's noise, came a sound, faint but clear. The squeak of a gate. The clink of a chain. Harper rose, silent. He took his revolver from the wall, opened the door just enough to see the dark yard. Nothing but shadows and blowing grit. Eliza stood behind him, clutching her baby. "What is it?" He shut the door. "Wind, maybe," but his hand stayed on the gun a long while. When a storm finally broke near dawn, the world outside was washed gray. The barn roof had lost a sheet of tin, the troughs were half buried in dust, and the trail leading out to town was gone, swallowed by the land. Eliza stood at the porch rail, rocking her baby. Harper came up beside her, hat low over his eyes. "You think the earth ever gets tired of taking what it wants?" she asked. He looked out across the plain. "No, but it gives something back, sometimes." She glanced at him, but he didn't look her way. He was staring at the horizon again, like he saw something out there that hadn't yet arrived. And somewhere deep beneath the quiet of that morning, the wind settling, the child cooing, the horses shifting in their stalls, the roots of trouble began to stir. Whispers in the dust. Hoofbeats thundered against hard ground, echoing through the canyon before fading into the stillness. Harper reined his horse outside Wade's general store, the leather creaking under his weight. The morning sun threw long shadows across the main street of Silver Mesa, where dust moved like breath over the ground. He tied the reins, glanced once toward the saloon doors swinging lazy in the wind, then pushed into the store. "Morning, Marshal," Wade muttered, not looking up from weighing flour. "Not a marshal anymore." "Old habits," Wade said, sliding the bag across the counter. His eyes flicked toward a group of men in the corner, their voices low. Harper didn't need to turn to know they were talking about him. He'd felt at the moment he rode into town, the weight of their stares. "Woman at his ranch," one whispered. "Came through the hills last month, carrying a baby. Saw a poster in Yuma, wanted for robbery, maybe murder." The sound of a chair scraping across the floor cut through the air. Harper turned his head slow. The men froze. He picked up the flour, placed a silver coin on the counter, and said, "Tell whoever's printing those stories they'd best keep their ink to themselves." Then he walked out. Back at the ranch, Eliza was hanging wet sheets across the line when she saw him riding in. The wind tugged at the cloth, making it snap like sails. "You were gone long," she said, brushing hair from her eyes. "Town's full of talk." "About what?" He hesitated. "You." Her hand stilled. The wind took one of the sheets, twisting it free. She didn't chase it. "What kind of talk?" "The kind that don't die easy." She turned away, voice barely above the rustle of the wind. "Then maybe I should go." "You ain't running again," Harper said. His tone was sharp, almost harsh, but his eyes were steady. "Not till I know who's chasing you." That night, a storm brewed but never broke. Thunder rolled somewhere far off, but no rain came. The sky was swollen with it, angry and waiting. Eliza sat by the fire, baby asleep in her arms, shadows playing across her face. Harper leaned against the post near the door, rolling a smoke he never lit. "You ever kill a man, Eliza?" he asked quietly. Her eyes lifted. "Would it matter?" "It might." She set the baby down in a basket near the hearth. "I didn't shoot him," she said finally, "but they said I did. The marshal died on the train. My husband, he planned the job, not me. They hung him and came looking for me next." Harper didn't move, didn't speak. "I ran," she said, voice cracking. "Not for gold, not for guilt. For him." Her eyes went to the baby. they'd have taken him too. Outside, the wind sighed across the land. Harper took a slow breath. You handle that rifle well for a woman who never shot a man. Her eyes flickered. My husband taught me. Said someday, I might have to defend more than money. He studied her a long time, then nodded once. Storm's close, he muttered, and walked out to the porch. The next evening, they heard horses. 3 of them, coming fast. Harper was in the barn mending tack when the sound reached him. He dropped the leather strap, grabbed his revolver, and stepped out. Eliza was already at the house, standing on the porch with the baby clutched to her chest. Inside, Harper ordered, but she didn't move. Who is it? Don't know yet. The riders slowed near the gate, dark shapes against the fading light. Their voices carried on the wind. That's the place, one said. Harper's ranch. Reckon she's there? Another replied. Harper raised the rifle. You got business here? The men froze. Then one called out, No quarrel with you, mister. Just asking after a woman passed through with a baby. Name's Eliza Graves. The name hung in the air like a curse. Harper's finger brushed the trigger. Ain't nobody by that name here. Sure about that, the lead rider sneered. Heard she was living off a washed-up lawman. The hammer clicked back. You got till I count 3. The men hesitated, eyes shifting. Then they turned their horses and rode off, their laughter fading with the dust they kicked up. Eliza stood frozen, the baby silent now. Who are they? Harper asked. Bounty men, she whispered. He lowered the rifle. They'll be back. Night settled heavy. Harper sat by the window, cleaning his gun by lantern light. Eliza stood nearby, feeding the fire, her hands trembling though she tried to hide it. You could have told me sooner, he said. You'd have sent me away. Maybe. Silence filled the room. The baby whimpered once, then drifted back to sleep. Harper looked at her then. Not the outlaw the town believed her to be, but the woman who had walked through a dust storm carrying a child that wasn't half her weight. Tomorrow, he said, we ride to the sheriff. Tell him the truth. She turned sharply. And hang for a crime I didn't do. I can speak for you. Her voice broke. You think your word means something to men like them? The fire cracked, sending a spray of sparks up the chimney. I can't keep you safe here forever, he said. You already did, she whispered. Their eyes met. Something unspoken passed between them again, an old kind of trust that didn't need promises. Near midnight, the horses spooked. Harper woke instantly, revolver drawn. Outside, the wind was calm, but the animals were restless, stamping and blowing hard. He stepped out, boots crunching on dry dirt. The sky was black and endless, no moon to see by. He moved to the fence line and stopped. There, fresh hoof prints. For maybe 5 riders had passed through the lower field not an hour ago. He looked toward the hills. Nothing but the whisper of wind. Behind him, the door creaked open. Eliza stood there, baby in her arms, hair loose around her face. They found us, she said. He nodded. Then we fight, she added. Harper looked at her. This thin, worn woman who'd walked out of a storm and built something like life again from the ashes. He almost told her to hide, to stay safe. But her eyes, steady, fierce, alive, said she wouldn't. Tomorrow, he said, voice low, we end this. The wind rose again, carrying dust and the faint echo of laughter from far down the trail. And as dawn crept slow across the desert, the first light caught the iron on Harper's belt, the old badge he'd left hanging by the door. Now, it gleamed once more, catching fire in the sun. The storm and the showdown. The baby was crying. Wind slammed the shutters, dust swirling through the cracks of the old cabin. Harper stood by the window, rifle in hand, jaw set tight. Outside, the plains were the color of blood, dawn crawling up slow and mean. They're here, Eliza said. Harper didn't look at her. How many? 3, maybe 4. He moved the curtain aside with 2 fingers. Shapes rode out of the rising sun, long coats flapping, rifles glinting in the light. Their horses moved in a slow fan, cutting off the trail both ways. Get the boy in the cellar, Harper said. I'm not hiding. He turned. The look in her eyes stopped him. Calm, steady, unshakable. She was already strapping the baby to her back, tying the cloth tight across her shoulders. Then keep him close, he said quietly. The riders dismounted. The man in front, tall, scarred, hat low, called out across the distance. "Jed Harper, you got something belongs to me." Harper stepped onto the porch, the boards creaking under his boots. "Can't say I do." The man grinned. "A woman named Eliza Graves. Wanted for robbery and murder. Worth $500 dead or alive." "You'll leave the way you came," Harper said. "That a warning or a prayer?" "It's both." The scar man laughed. Didn't figure the great lawman turn outlaw himself. "Guess grief changes a man." Harper's eyes didn't waver. "You don't know grief." Behind him, Eliza appeared in the doorway, rifle in hand. Her voice was cold. "He knows enough. Name's Clayton Dagg. Used to ride with my husband before he hung him. Killed him himself to take the gold." Dagg's grin faded. "You should have stayed gone, girl." "I tried." The plains fell silent. Then Dagg's hand twitched toward his holster. Too slow. Harper's rifle cracked once, echoing like thunder through the canyon. One of Dagg's men dropped before his body hit the dust. The rest scattered, shouting. Gunfire ripped through the morning. Bullets tore splinters from the porch posts, shattered the water trough, sent horses screaming into the wind. "Stay low," Harper barked. Eliza ducked behind the doorframe, firing once, then again, steady, measured, precise. One shot hit a rider square in the chest. He toppled from his saddle and didn't rise. "Hellfire!" Dagg roared, crouched behind a wagon wheel. "You always did pick your friends wrong, Eliza." "You always did pick your lies," she called back. Harper fired again, his revolver smoking. Another man down. The world shrank to sound and dust. The baby's wail, the sharp sting of gunpowder, the crack of rifles bouncing off the canyon walls. Then silence. A single shot answered it. Harper staggered, a bloom of red spreading across his side. "Jed!" Eliza screamed. She caught him before he fell, lowering him to the floorboards. "I'm all right," he lied. The blood said otherwise. Outside, boots scraped. Dagg stepped up onto the porch, revolver in hand, eyes wild. "Into the trail, sweetheart," he said. "Drop the gun." Eliza rose, shoulders straight, rifle steady. "You framed me. You killed him. You blame me to buy yourself a badge and a name." Dagg smirked. "Ain't no one left to tell that story but you." Harper shifted, coughing, his hand finding the fallen revolver. "She ain't alone." Dagg aimed at him, finger tightening. Eliza fired first. The blast lit the porch, sending Dagg crashing backward into the dirt. Smoke curled up from the rifle barrel, drifting through the rising wind. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then Harper slumped against the post, breath ragged. Eliza dropped beside him, pressing her hand to the wound. "Hold on." He smiled faintly. "Looks like you didn't need saving after all." Tears cut clean lines through the dust on her cheeks. "Don't talk." He looked past her to the open land, sunlight breaking through the storm clouds, lighting the hills in gold. "You were right about running. Sometimes you gotta stop and let the world find you." The baby whimpered. Harper reached up, brushed a tiny hand with his fingers. "Strong little fella." "Like his father," she whispered. "Like his mother," he corrected. His hand fell still. The wind picked up again, carrying the smell of gunpowder and rain. Eliza sat there beside him, face turned toward the horizon, until the sun climbed fully over the ridge. Behind her, the baby cried softly, a sound that was both beginning and ending. When she finally rose, she walked down the steps, past Dagg's body, and across the yard. The storm clouds broke, and light poured over the land. She didn't look back. In the distance, the wind caught the broken gate and swung it once, twice, before leaving it open to the road. And through the quiet came only the faint sound of a woman's footsteps fading toward the hills, a legend in the making, carried by the dust. The woman who rode through the smoke. The barn was burning again. But this time, it wasn't anger, it was judgment. The sky turned the color of dying embers, smoke swirling in the wind like restless ghosts. The baby cried from inside the ranch house, his wail sharp as a whip crack. Lila ran barefoot through the dirt, her shawl dragging behind her, the shotgun heavy in her hands. Every shadow moved. Every sound carried danger. "Get down, ma'am," Eli hollered, crouched behind a water trough, rifle raised toward the ridge. They're coming from the west. They took everything last time, she hissed, setting her jaw. They won't take this boy's home. The hoofbeats came in waves, 5, maybe 6 riders tearing through the haze. Their leader, Barlow, the man with the snake oil grin and a scar splitting his brow, rode tall and slow, his revolver glinting like a cruel star. He called out, voice slurred with liquor and arrogance. You should have stayed gone, Mrs. Moore. Ain't no place here for beggars and liars. Lila didn't flinch. She pulled the hammer back, the sound cutting through the crackle of the flames. You're right, Barlow, she said softly. There ain't. The first shot came from Eli's rifle. The second was hers. Then the whole ranch came alive in gunfire. The outlaws spread wide, their horses kicking up sand and sparks. Eli dove for cover, a bullet grazing his shoulder. The baby's cries echoed louder, desperate, hungry, terrified. Lila's heart thudded against her ribs, but her aim didn't tremble. She moved with the rhythm of survival, steady, unthinking, certain. A man charged through the smoke on horseback, revolver aimed straight at her chest. Lila spun, fired once. The rider slumped, falling into the dust. The horse galloped past, wild and riderless. Barlow's voice broke through the chaos. You always were a fool's wife, Lila. Never knew when to kneel. Lila ducked behind a porch post, breathing hard. I learned from the best, she spat and reloaded. Barlow dismounted, stepping closer, boots crunching on broken glass and ash. You think that rancher you're playing house with cares? He took you in 'cause you were pretty and pitiful. Same as every man before. A quiet, dangerous calm filled her. She stood. You're wrong. Her voice didn't shake, it was iron. The barn groaned behind them, flames clawing at the sky. Barlow leveled his gun. Then prove it. The world narrowed to the space between them. Smoke, wind, breath. Barlow fired first. The bullet tore through the air, grazing her arm. She didn't blink. Her shotgun roared back, 2 shells center mass. He stumbled, gasping, his eyes wide with the shock of mortality. He fell to his knees, choking on blood and dust. You're no woman, he rasped. Your death dressed in rags. Lila stepped forward, smoke curling around her like a shroud. No, she whispered. I'm home. She watched him fall, the last spark of defiance fading from his eyes. Then silence, thick and ringing, fell over the ranch. Eli limped from behind the trough, face blackened with soot. You did it, he breathed. You damn well did it. Lila turned, the baby's cries carrying through the open door. No, Eli, she said softly, setting the shotgun down. We did. He looked at her, really looked, and saw what the desert had forged in her. Not a beggar, not a widow, not some fragile thing in need of saving, but the kind of woman ballads were born from. As dawn crept over the smoldering ruins, the wind shifted, carrying the scent of mesquite and dust. Lila stood at the porch rail, the baby quiet now in her arms, eyes wide and blinking against the new light. The land around them glowed gold and red, a country reborn through fire. Eli came beside her, his hat in his hands. Barlow's gang won't come back. Word'll spread fast enough. Good, she murmured. Let it. He hesitated, then said, You never told me what you did before all this. She smiled faintly, eyes still on the horizon. A man once told me I couldn't protect myself, so I proved him wrong. Eli chuckled, quiet, reverent. Seems to me, you proved more than that. She looked down at the baby, then back at the rising sun. Maybe, but sometimes proving it isn't enough. You have to live it. The wind rustled through the blackened grass, scattering ashes that looked like snow. A hawk wheeled high above, its cry breaking the morning calm. Eli watched her a moment longer, then turned toward the corral to tend the surviving horses. Lila stood there, holding her child, her shadow stretching long across the dust. She could almost hear the voice of the old storyteller now, that raspy drawl carried on the wind. They say there was once a woman who came begging for work with a baby in her arms. A woman who had lost everything, except her will. The cowboy took her in, didn't know he was Taquine and a legend. And when trouble came riding through the smoke, It was her hand that saved the land. The storyteller's voice faded, replaced by the creak of the windmill turning slow and steady against the sky. Lila turned toward the sound, whispering to the baby as she rocked him gently. "You're home now, little one. We both are." The morning light washed over her face, fierce and soft all at once. The desert stretched before them, wide, endless, forgiving. And though no one saw it, somewhere deep in that stillness, the land seemed to bow to her. The widow who fought like a gunslinger, the mother who became a myth, the woman who rode through the smoke.